Good evening, everyone, to all the wonderful members of our YouTube family and Instagram family. Welcome to Cambridge Veritas. We'll just have a look at everybody. If everybody's tuned in, bear with me. Just have a look at. So, how are you all? How has Tuesday been so far? Yesterday, we had an important request on one of the videos of YouTube that we had uploaded a lesson, and the request was pertaining to basically an IELTS speaking uh, lesson, which was catering to grammar. So this is what we have today. Hi Shivai, once again. So in today's lesson, we're going to be looking at IELTS speaking, most common grammar mistakes, and most importantly, their corrections as well. If you're able to hear me, just show me a big thumbs up, please. And just want to make sure that everybody's there with us. Perfect. All right. So, what are we going to do in this lesson? We're going to be looking at, as the name says, we're going to be looking at the most common mistakes that people make when it comes to IELTS speaking. I repeat, the most common mistakes, grammatically speaking, that people make when it comes to IELTS speaking. And of course, it is not only restricted to IELTS speaking, it just sort of goes beyond speaking, and one could see the same thing being replicated in IELTS writing as well. And that's what we're going to be looking at today. If you're new to the channel, please do make sure that you subscribe, and welcome to our community. Every day at 9 p.m., we have this live where we help our YouTube family, our Instagram family, with lessons pertaining to a gazillion things related to IELTS and the likes. So make sure that you like the lesson as well, in case you like it. So let's get started. What are the three most important things that we're going to do in this session? We're going to be looking at point number one: identify and correct tense error. We're going to be looking at the most common and simple mistakes that people make. Your participation is very important, so make sure that you're active. Number two, we're going to be looking at what are prepositions and how do people use them incorrectly in basic sentences, not just in the IELTS exam, but in our daily lives as well. So we'll look at that. And understand verb forms. Now, you can see a lot of interesting words here that sound a little bit technical, correct? But in this lesson, I promise you, we're going to understand everything without technical jargons. I repeat, we're going to understand everything without technical jargons. Let me tell you a short story. When I was pursuing my qualifications from a Canadian university, I was specifically told that we should not use technical jargons in language classrooms. And that's exactly what we will do today. We'll try understanding everything in simple, easy peasy lingo. So without further ado, let's begin. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you guys for showing me the thumbs up. So how is the lesson sort of divided? Let me tell you. We're going to look at in total 9 mistakes. I repeat, we're going to look at 9 mistakes, of each 3 mistakes basically divided in 3 parts. 3 mistakes for IELTS speaking part 1, 3 mistakes for IELTS speaking part 2, and 3 for IELTS speaking part 3. It basically means we will look at sentences as one that you can see right now. We will look at sentences that students or candidates use during these parts and end up making teeny weeny itsy bitsy mistakes here and there. And what is the correct pattern of it? So whilst I show you the incorrect version, you have to help me with what is the correct version. And then we'll also look at a very simple explanation of it. But it has to be a conversation. I don't want to speak and be alone in this lesson, please. You have to participate with me, ask me questions, and just enjoy. for the next 20, 25 minutes. Ready? All right. So here we go. So the first sentence is the order. Let's have a look. I live in a house with my family and we're very close with each other. This is a very interesting one, actually. And I'll tell you why it is an interesting one in a short while. What do you think is the correct version of this sentence? Can you put it in the chat box? I'll take the questions in the end. Let's have a look here. I live in a house with my family and we're very close with each other. What is the mistake? It looks like a good sentence. Perfect, Shivai. Very nice. So the correct sentence is actually here. I live in a house with my family and we're very close to. We don't say close with each other, and I'll tell you the reason why. So the correct English here is, please have a look. The correct thing here to say is we're very close to, not close with. But what is the reason? What do you think could be the reason? What is the difference between close to versus close with? So, what's the difference between the two? Can you guess? What could it be? They're both close, and there's just one word that is the difference. So, what do you think? Can you put your answers in the chat box? Let's see what could be the difference here. Let's have a look at the explanation. The explanation is, so we use close to when we are referring to relationships. I repeat, we use close to, I'm not quite close to, let's say, my relatives. So when you're talking about relationships, you'd actually use close to rather than close with. This is called a phrasal verb. Phrasal verbs are expressions that are always used together. There's the word, and then there is words like to, for, in, on, etc. So close to is considered a phrasal verb, which means talking about the proximity or relationship. All right. So this is how we use close to. So the next time when you're talking about relationships, don't say we're very close with each other. No. You say we're very close to each other. All right. If you've understood, show me a thumbs up, please. Thank you. So close to is the relationship proximity that we're referring to in this situation. All right? Perfect. Now we're going to be looking at the second one. So be ready in the chat box. Let's have a look at the second sentence. One common mistake that we see in part two is the long turnaround, where you get to have a topic and you have to speak on the topic for 2 minutes. So there's one student who's speaking, and the sentence here is, "This city is more bigger than my hometown." More bigger than my hometown. So what is the problem here? What do you think? Can you let me know in the comment section below? It is a very, very common problem. Let's have a look here. There are two words. In English language, when we compare two things, let's say, we've got a book here and we've got a remote here. If you sort of look at the height, which one's bigger? Actually, let's use this remote. This looks like a better version. So if you look at the two, which one's bigger? Of course, the book. The book looks bigger, correct? So when we compare two things in English language, two things, we either use, have a look. When we compare two things in English language, we either use ER, all right, or we use more. So we say either we say bigger, or we say, so we add er in the end of the word, or we say more beautiful. Okay. So for example, if you're using the word interesting, you're comparing which one's more interesting, the phone or the book. So for different people, it's different. So when it comes to a word like interesting, of course, you don't use interestinger. You say more interesting, correct? But what is the reason behind it? You do not use these two words together. Either use er or use more, but don't use them together. That's very important. These kinds of words in English language are called, does anybody know what do we call them? What is the meaning of these words? We call them comparatives. What do we call them? Comparatives. Never use these two ones together. We always use one of them, not both of them. So what is the correct answer here? The correct answer is, this city is bigger than my hometown. Next time when you're saying anything, do not use er and more together because they're both comparatives. We only use any one form of the comparatives. All right? If you've understood this, show me a big thumbs up. Thank you. Lovely. And the explanation is here. For short words, actually, there's a more deeper explanation of it than just simply this. But for the sake of understanding for a wider audience that's joined us, we don't know their level of English as well, so we just want to be more inclusive. We say, for shorter words, just add er and don't use more when you use er together. Use only one. So, more beautiful and bigger, but not more bigger. All right, so remember that. That's very important. Let's move to the next sentence. Superb. So the next sentence is here. This is a part one problem once again. So the mistake is, this solution definitely will solve all environmental problems. Everything is fine with this sentence grammatically. Looks like, what do you think is the problem? Can I tell you? Waiting for your answers, by the way. Solution definitely will. Yes, Shivai. What do you think? So the problem is, here we go, everyone. Is this a casual conversation going on, or is this an academic assessment? In the IELTS, on the IELTS test, speaking test, part one, we are talking about yourself. Is this a casual conversation going on, or is this an academic sort of environment? It is academic setting. So what happens there? Please keep this in mind. Please keep this in mind. Here we go. The word will here is a big problem. I repeat, the word will here is a big problem. So for example, if I say, I will go to the temple tomorrow, or I'll go to wherever I want to tomorrow. So will shows surety. Now, when you're using an academic sentence here, this solution will definitely will solve a problem, or will definitely, by the way, that's also an issue here. You're actually showing surety. And in academic lingo, you might want to use words like might, possibly. Possibly, definitely here is an issue. The word will shows surety. And when you add adverbs like definitely here, adverbs of surety or assurance, or how strong something is, it is not right. Well, somebody could ask you, have you done a research on it that you're so sure about it that it will definitely solve a problem? By the way, the position could be an issue as well. But what I'm trying to particularly stress on right now is the word definitely and will. So you might want to use words like might solve a problem or possibly solve the problem, but not use will definitely or definitely will solve the problem. So this is something to bear in mind. All right. I repeat, this is something to bear in mind. Okie dokie. Let's move on. Please have a look at the next one. So this is a part one mistake. I have been living in London since 2 years. No matter how advanced a speaker, verbally, not in written English, I've seen so many people making this making this slip. So what is the problem with this sentence? I have been living in London since 2 years. Classic. It's a classic. The correct sentence is I have been living in London for 2 years. What is the explanation? There are two words that people often get confused with. Word number one is since, and word number two is for. For is used for duration. So have a look at this. 2 years is a specific time in the past, like January 2024, or is it expressing a duration? 2 years, 2 months, 2 weeks, 2 minutes, 2 seconds is a duration. It's expressing a duration. I repeat, it's expressing a duration. So when you see this word for, it's a duration. And when you see something like 2 years, it's a duration. And for that, we use for rather than since. You may want to say, I have been living in London since January 2023. Now, January 2023 is a specific time in the past. I repeat, January 2023 is a specific time. It's not a duration. For example, you say February 10th. Is it a duration or is it a specific date? It's a specific date. It's not a duration. So you say, I have been exercising daily since February 10th, 2024. So then you use since because it is a specific time in the past. Remember that. The next time you're confused about since and for, this is the basic funda. For duration, and since for specific time. If you've understood this, show me a thumbs up. Thank you. Show me a big thumbs up if you've understood this. All right, let's have a look at the next one. Perfect, Alka. Let's move on. So this is number 5, part 2 mistake. The student says, the most important thing for me is to be with my friends in weekends. I know some of you may already know what the answer is, looking at how the audience sort of responds, but can you tell me why in the chat box? Why? All right, so here we go. Please have a look. So the problem here with the sentence is when people actually end up using words like in weekend, over weekend, on weekend is a big confusion, especially in the language development phase. Now, we're not mocking. During the language development phase, it is a very common prepositional error, although that's not a word, preposition error, and that's all right. But the idea is in what context do we use in and in what context do we use on? Now, this it's a very simple funda. I'm actually not even showing you the main explanation. I'm telling you the easier way out. Always remember this. I repeat, always remember this. On is used specifically when you're referring to days. On Christmas, on Diwali, on Eid, on Lohri, etc., etc. In, on the other hand, is used when you're looking for extended periods of time. So I'm just going to write extended period, EP, for your easier reference. In is used when you have extended periods of time. For example, in January, 30 days. In 2023, 12 months. In June, one complete month. So what's happening here? When it is in 1995, the entire year. So when it is an extended period of time, you use in. On the other hand, when you're referring to specific days, you use on. So that's why we don't say in weekends, we say on weekend or on weekends. So the correct answer is the most important thing for me is to be with my friends on weekends. All right. Can you make a sentence using on weekends in the chat box, ladies and gentlemen? On weekends. Thank you. Perfect. So, shall we move to the next one? The next mistake is here we go. This is my favorite one in this entire lesson. I repeat, this is my favorite one in this entire lesson. During my tenure as a linguist, I have done so many corporate trainings, trained directors, vice presidents, and who not. And this is something I've seen so many celebrities, Bollywood celebrities, politicians, making mistakes with this very sentence that you see. Only 10% of the people who actually speak English correctly are able to use these kinds of sentences correctly. And you, 12 people watching right now, are going to be one of those people. So enough of talk. Let's have a look at the substance. Thank you, Radhya. So, had I received the feedback earlier, I would implement the changes. What do you think is the correct version here? Had I received, it's a mistake, it's wrong. Don't speak like this. Had I received the feedback earlier, I would implement the changes. Classic. Waiting for your answers. The correct sentence is right in front of us. Here we go. Had I received the feedback earlier, I would have implemented the changes. What is the difference between this sentence and this sentence? I repeat, what is the difference between this sentence and this sentence? Very simple. Have a look. Now, in the first sentence, I'm starting the sentence with had I, and then this third form of the word here. And then, can you see there's a comma? There's a comma, and then the second part of the sentence starts. Now, watch very, very carefully to all those 10 people watching right now. The first part of the sentence is called condition. It's imaginary situation, correct? Had I received the feedback, means if you had given me the feedback, so it's only condition. It has not happened. It's only in my head if you understand the sentence. It's condition. I would implement the changes. This is the result part. Correct? The first part is condition, the second part is the result. Yes or no? All right. Now, here is the deal. Have a look. Very important. The deal is when By the way, this is called a third conditional sentence. What do we call it? Technically speaking, a third conditional sentence, but let's understand it in an easier manner. Whenever you see these kinds of sentences, with condition, always use had, but with result, always use would have. With condition, so it's like this. So this is the first part of the sentence, this is comma, and this is the second part of the sentence. The first part of the sentence is called condition. The second part of the sentence is called result. The first part always has had in it, plus the word, whatever word it is, had received, had uh, sung, had swum, whatever. So it is the third form of the word. And in the second part, you always use would have. I repeat, would have. So, for example, now make a sentence using this rule, this very rule. For example, if you had called, I would have picked. If I had cooked, you would have hated it. If I had made this lesson, oh, no, I have an interesting one. If I had skipped this lesson, you would have not learned this rule. Correct? Now, can you make a sentence using this in the chat box? Your turn. Come on, waiting for some good ones. Everybody has to make this. You can do this, everyone. Thank you. Take a moment to think. No problem, no rush. Okay, I'm going to be reading your sentences in a bit. Let's move on. The next mistake is from part 3, speaking part 3. While I was walking to work, I saw an accident that happened. It looks like everything is correct with the sentence, but there's something quintessential that's wrong with this sentence. Have a look. The correct sentence is, walking to work, I saw an accident happen. Walking to work, I saw an accident happen. But what is the explanation here? Use a participle clause to make your speech more concise and sophisticated, especially during academic conversations. The more precise you speak, sometimes it is better. And that's what this sentence is doing. While I was walking, now look at the length. The moment you look at the length of the sentences as well, it'll help you understand where we are going with this explanation. While I was walking to work, it's not about making any complex sentence. It's about the sophistication of the language as well, whilst you talk during an academic conversation. So while I was walking to work, I saw an accident that happened. Changes to walking to work, I saw an accident happen. All right. So we also call this technique hedging. I repeat, we also call this technique hedging, where you sort of sometimes add fillers when you're thinking, and sometimes you sort of reduce the length of the sentence because you just don't want to make it boring. Okay, Aradhya's made a sentence. If I had painted this bottle earlier, you would have taken it. Very nice, Aradhya. Perfect sentence, grammatically correct. Bingo. Annette, had I received her invitation a weekend, I would have attended her wedding. On a weekend, maybe you mean, Annette? Annette, bingo, wonderful. That's correct. What about other people? All right, let's move on. Here is the next mistake. In regards of environmental issues, governments should take action. A lot of people actually write like this during emails as well. in the emails as well. Now there's Chat GPT that helps a lot with emails. But what do you think is the problem with this sentence? In regards to environmental issues, government should take action. Not in regards to, with regard to environmental issues, government should take action. In regards to is casual, and this is an academic conversation. Actually, never again. Don't use in regards to. It is not appropriate, even. It is you say the same thing but in a more casual manner, so the tone changes completely. In regards to is the casual version of with regard to. I repeat, in regards to is the casual version of with regard to. So the next time when you're speaking, writing, just say with regard to our previous conversation, with regard to the documents I shared, with regard to our telephonic interaction, etc., etc. Let's have a look at the explanation here very quickly. The precise preposition here is with, not in, for formal academic discussions. I repeat, for formal academic discussions. All right. Perfect. Let's move on. Here we go. This is the last one. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the last mistake. You've stuck around a lot, and here is something unique. Before we look at the mistake, in case you haven't given a thumbs up to the lesson yet, if you've learned something new today, if it has been fruitful in the last 10, 20 minutes, do give a thumbs up to the lesson, like the video. It helps motivate our team. Here we go. It's essential that everyone follows these guidelines. It's essential that everyone follows these guidelines. This is my favorite one as well. What do you think is the problem here? Good. Fantastic. But what is the reason? It's essential that everyone follow these guidelines. Do you know the reason? The guidelines, yeah. What is the reason? Okay, the reason is this. I want you to focus here. Whenever you start the sentence with, it's essential that, and if you use words like everyone, everybody, someone, somebody, no one, nobody, anyone, anybody, etc., although it's got a rule family of its own, you remove S from here. You can say everyone follows it. That's fine. But if you say it's essential that, in that case, S does not come with these words. All right? In that case, especially when you're starting the sentence with it's essential that, S does not come with these words. All right? So what's the correct version here? Let's have a look. It's essential that everyone follow these guidelines. Remember that in writing as well as talking, speaking. The correct explanation here is, please have a look. After it's essential that, always use the basic words without adding S, such as follow. It's essential that everyone follow, everyone go, everyone whatever, anything and everything in the world. Be here basically means is MR without adding the S part. So that's important. Remember that. All right. So the next one here is to get a band 7 or plus. What should you keep in mind? Let's have a look at number 1. Make sure that you demonstrate range. That's very important. I say it multiple times. Range is very important. Simple sentences, different types of tenses basically. You use conditionals, like those if sentences. Then you use the correct ways, the correct verbs, where to put S, where to not put S. Then you use comparatives correctly, like more plus ER. No, doesn't go together. It's bigger, not more, bigger. So those kinds of things. Number two, use appropriate hedging and qualifying language. It is an academic interview, so make sure that whenever you talk, you open your mouth, you're using formal language because you're not talking to your friend. After all, you're talking to who? You're talking to an interviewer who's going to be assessing you based on the appropriacy of your language, basically, and the knowledge bank of your basically English language. Number three, always use a mixture of simple sentences and complex sentences. Always a good idea. Shorter sentences, middle length sentences, etc. Although the teacher's not sort of counting, but do you know they have a recorder, and they're not only marking you there and then. They listen to the recorder. There's a second. There's something called moderator. Moderator means if I'm your examiner and I have given you band 7, after me there's a moderator who will check if I have given you the correct score or not by listening to the recording. So make sure that you use both simple. So there's double checking that happens. A lot of people do not know that. So simple and complex sentences that sort of go together. And finally, keep pushing your boundaries. Don't be afraid to use these structures. We don't come, all of us do not come from linguistic backgrounds, and that's all right. You spend 10 days, you spend 15 days. If you want professional help, you take professional help. Take an IELTS preparation course. Be there for 30 days. Give yourself time to not only improve English for IELTS, but for daily life as well. Because when you open your mouth, no matter how smart or not smart you are academically or by the looks, people respect you more because of your eloquency. And that's important. Okay? And finally, on this note, thank you so very much for being a part of this lesson. Lots of love, as always. Today, we looked at 10 sentences where people make the most mistakes when it comes to IELTS speaking, and I hope you found it useful. We're going to meet once again tomorrow with yet another interesting topic. Until then, make sure that you're smiling always, and make sure that you subscribe to the channel and like our videos and share it with your friends and family as well for them to subscribe to, because we're a growing community and we love it when you participate with us. God bless. Take care. Good night. And I think there are what do you call it? There's voting tomorrow in Delhi. So to all those who live in Delhi, it's an important day. Go out there, make sure that you vote, and God bless. Good night. Ciao, ciao.